When the smoke came again in late summer 2017, I felt with a stomach-clenched certainty that this was a sign of climate change, the crisis I had written about for years, showing up to leer at me from above. The sky dropped ash, which clung to garden spider webs and the leaves of plants. It clotted onto the surface of my fresh cup of tea. The whole experience felt eerily like being cupped inside a terrarium, like there was no way to step outside and breathe freely. The fire's impact, the claustrophobia, the tension, the suffocating, ugly air feels like a preview, and a mild one, of what's to come if we don't take immediate and drastic steps to halt and mitigate climate change, wrote Seattle-based columnist and author Lindy West. July and August 2018 were even more oppressive. Rivers of smoke gushed from both the interior of British Columbia and the center of Washington state across hundreds of miles to merge in the skies above my house. Seattle's air quality was suddenly among the worst in the world, worse than smog-choked Beijing's, and drifted into the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's very unhealthy range, vicious enough to threaten the well-being of anyone who was breathing. The city skyline appeared as a smudged pencil etching through the ash. When I walked the streets, I wore an N95 respirator mask purchased from the hardware store, similar to the kind that healthcare workers would later use as protection from the spread of coronavirus. But my throat stung anyway. A year later, in August, I drove over the mountains and visited the North Cascades Smoke Jumper Base in the Methau Valley, run by the Forest Service. The valley is also the birthplace of smoke jumping, which is something like the firefighters' equivalent of the Army Rangers, an elite style of firefighting that involves parachuting into the wilderness. The campus, which included a runway, a brown house that functioned as an office, a metal-sided warehouse, and what looked like a barn, but was labeled the Lufkin Parachute Loft, lay halfway down the valley between Winthrop and Twisp. An unpretentious town with a family-run lumber store on one end, and on the other, the old Idle-A-While Motel, and a set of cabins originally built by the U.S. Forest Service. In the summer and early fall, the base offered free tours to any curious person who might stop in, and I had long wanted to get a better handle on the reality of fire. So essentially, there's crazy fire in Washington and Canada for this lady, and the author, I believe, Madeline Ostrander, and she's very dismayed, it's affecting her health. So a year later, she's going to visit one of the elite firefighting little camps out in Methau Valley.